Welcome to the Dareful Project. I'm Deborah Hotelli. Jess Grippo is a lot of things. She's an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, a dancer, and founder of Dance Again, a New York City and online dance space that offers dance classes for rusty dancers and newbies. In fact, she offers classes called Rusty Ballet, and I want to make sure I get this right, where she says creaky joints and cranky people are welcome. Jess, welcome.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Thanks for having me on.
So ground us on Dance Again. Where did that start? Tell us all about it.
Sure. Well, it started with my own personal journey back into dance after having quit when I was about 19 years old. I was very serious about ballet when I was younger, but decided to go to quote unquote regular college and study and do other things through my 20s. And I found myself in my late 20s with that like inner dancer calling to me, being like, don't forget about me. But yet I personally was way too intimidated to just step foot into a random dance class. I lived in New York City. You know, a lot of the classes, even if they're labeled as like a beginner class, they're like they just seem like fast and advanced. And I was, I was not in practice at the time. And so for me at the time, I just was like, well, I'm going to figure out my own way to do this. And it started out with dancing alone in my room a lot and kind of making quirky dance videos. This was like way before TikTok existed. And I just started to find my own expression and my own movement through dance. And as time went on, I was like, all right, well, I think I nailed the alone part of dancing. So let me like see if other people want to join. And I started to kind of put word out there, and that was like the origins of Dance Again. And the intention was that while it's really easy to find, at least, New York, LA, right? The major cities, you can probably find a professional-ish adult dance class, right? In other places, maybe you can't even find that. You can probably find a Zumba class or something dance cardio based, right? But it seems like the cardio, like workout focused dance classes are like, the more accessible things, but I didn't want to just go in and work out and sweat. I wanted to feel like a dancer again. I wanted to like learn choreography and, express myself and all those things. And so that was really the intention of like filling in that gap of like, let's create a class and, a studio eventually that, that was that middle ground. That was something where people could like feel like a dancer again, have a class that wasn't like so technical or like, fast paced that they felt like, I don't know how to keep up, but also not just a cardio class. Right. And that was the birth of Dance Again. And here we are many years later.
I love that so much. You were speaking to me. Because I took dance, like Parks and Rec dance when I was little, right? And just loved it. And then in college, I took ballet and jazz. So I loved it, super passionate, but not great, right? I was a grown-up person, but it was still, you were learning choreography, you were learning the correct technique. And so one year, my wonderful husband gave me ballet slippers. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and take a ballet class. So I called this local ballet class, this studio, and they're like, oh, yes. Did you ever take classes? You're welcome. You should come. Okay, Jess. I got there and everyone was like in the biz and just like keeping in shape before their next, dance video. I was so out of everybody's league that I just was like that 5-year-old kid just like twirling around in the corner when everybody else was doing stuff. It was so awful that it was actually really fun and hilarious. But I wish I would have known you then.
Yeah, I wish you did too. And so wait, did you ever go back or did you like take that class and you were like, I don't know?
No, that was it. So now I sort of satisfy myself with, taking Zumba classes at the gym and stuff like that. So it feels like there's a big need. So tell me who shows up for your classes.
We have a range of people, like I put on the website for rusty dancers and newbies who are maybe always had the dream to dance or lightly danced in the past, but are wanting to really start as an adult. And rusty dancers, meaning those who did dance actively, not necessarily professionally, but just, took classes all through high school or maybe even into college. But then when adulting gets the best of us and, we have like a lot of other responsibilities and we kind of phase that part of our lives out. So, and I mean, it's a pretty wide age range. My oldest student is 72 years old. I think the youngest probably in their 20s. Like, I think there's still even people in their 20s who are like freshly out of college, but are still missing it, are still like craving that space that they can belong in a dance environment, and not feel like an outsider.
I want to talk about, you talk about your Aunt Marianne and about creativity and what you learned from her about creativity, which comes into what we're talking about here of even if you have an older body or you've been away from an art, that it can always welcome you back. Can you talk a little bit more about creativity and what you learned from her?
Yeah, well, my great aunt, Marianne, she was incredible. And she was a visual artist, a painter, which she only started in her 40s in her life. And what I learned, the big takeaway that I learned from her was self-preservation, was this idea that art could be a way that we, no matter what life is, what's happening around us in the world and our personal lives, right? Like life is tough. Like, let's face it, right? As we get older, especially, art can be the thing that grounds you, that saves you, that keeps you connected to something rather than getting swept up and, in all the things that can happen. And she was an influence on me. Like when I was a teenager, I started to get introduced to her, and she was my grandfather's sister. And my grandfather was an incredible man as well. He was, after he retired, he worked for Nabisco for a long time in their New Jersey Patterson factory. And he decided to take up a hobby of taking railroad spikes and turning them into these statues. And the artistic spark was there in our family, but it would come out later. And my aunt was, at this point, she was actively painting and making art. And I met her at a couple of when she came down to New Jersey from Vermont. And we became pen pals throughout, my high school experience and would write each other. And I still have these letters from her that were just as someone young who was pursuing a career in dance at the time. And, it was really cool to hear from someone who was wow, your dance is your art, and that's valid. And that's something that, you should and can pursue. Whereas, I don't think, at least I didn't have a lot of that influence, even though my grandfather, like I said, was making things and doing his thing. There wasn't no, I don't think many people are overtly become an artist, go to college and make a lot of money doing something so her influence was pretty profound on me. And as I got older, me and my mom's cousin and her daughter, we would take these trips up to Vermont to visit her. And it always just left this mark on my soul and inspired me to keep following whatever weird and wonderful path that I was on.
But your story also brings up how we can have an effect on someone and not even realize it. Her living that way, continuing to be curious about her art, that I can tell really affected the way that you now live your life. And I wonder, I'm sure she did it for her own love and because she loved you, but it also, art can extend beyond our immediate perimeters, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think, even talking about self-preservation and I think there's a stigma around artists in general that it is a selfish, you have to be selfish because you need to dedicate all this time to the art. And it's and while yes, that can be true, it's like you said, you never, the impact that your self-expression is making on other people or the world, like that can be huge, and that it can actually really help other people.
So those of us who sort of dance in the kitchen, or, you know, kind of we're in the car, going back to a dance class can still be super intimidating. You got to have you got to look the right way. At least you feel like you do, right? And you got to walk in, you got to have a little attitude, and it could be scary. How can someone get started? What could you do?
Well, what I recommend is what I did way back in the day, which is like start alone in your room. Don't put that pressure on yourself right away, especially if you're not familiar yet with what kind of environment you're stepping into, because it you know, like with your experience, Deborah, right? Like you stepped into the class and you're like, oh my God, I feel like such an outsider here. And then like you didn't go back. It's like, that's what we want to avoid. It's like scarring ourselves. But sometimes we can't help it. But I would say like, yeah, depending on your comfort level. And that's why like at Dance Again, we do offer, like I have a 13-day, like it's called Dance Alone Together. It's a series that you can do at home where every day there's a different theme. It's actually like the themes are lined up with my book, and like it takes you on a journey of like both self-exploration and getting back in your body and moving. And we have like, you can take classes on Zoom with us. You can access the class library, right? It's like, the idea is like, you can get your start. Like ideally, hopefully we're out of the pandemic now and stuff, but like nobody really wants to be dancing on Zoom a lot, I imagine. But it's nice to have that option and to be like, okay, yeah, let me get comfortable. Let me start to like really feel out what my body is like right now, and how these movements are fitting in, and what style might I like, and what do I want to try, and how do I feel as a dancer now? Like, to have time to explore that and then step into a classroom, I think you can feel a lot more confident. It can make it easier. And of course, having a buddy with you is always a good thing if you can rally someone else to join you to take that dance class.
Is there stuff that you need to do if you have an older body and you're coming back just in preparation for that movement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you strengthening, like having practices, and I'm not an expert. I actually brought in other experts on injury prevention who have taught classes with us at Dance Again. In particular, Wendy Reinert and Dana DiFrancesco. And, working in a way where the thing is, our classes on purpose are not like, you're not doing like triple pirouettes and high kicks and like splits on the floor. Like there's like no like extra fancy technical moves on purpose, because and all of our teachers know that like we're making everything adaptable. So like, okay, well, if you can't stretch down this far, you're going to do this instead. Or if you can't, right? Like there's always modifications in the class, first of all. But even being that, I think every dancer, yes, should be responsible for themselves and their own body. And so, things like Pilates, strength training, and I've learned, like I had a pretty intense hip injury last year and went to physical therapy and worked with Wendy and like did all this stuff to try to like rehabilitate myself. And what I learned was like, okay, before I take a ballet class, which requires like turn out in your feet, that's going to affect my hip. So I need to actually do some parallel squats and leg lifts before I take or teach ballet. And it actually really helps me because it repositions my hip. It activates other muscles, right? So I learned that for myself, unfortunately based on an injury. But I think that taking it easy is always good. And then if in doubt, if you're feeling any aches and pains, to consult with someone or to take our injury prevention class and to kind of just like learn some techniques that are going to help you ease into it and warm up before class.
What has the reception been for folks joining you? I want you to say that your classes are filled and you're going to be expanding, because I'm here in LA and I'm ready for you.
I would love to expand to LA, like for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm personally working on ways to do that. Our classes are filling up. Whatever we're doing seems to be working. I started a teacher training. So the idea is that like I'm working on, people who feel called to this mission and would love to not only dance again, but teach dance again and create these kinds of spaces. You can work with me in a training and open up your own, similar to how like Zumba, you don't really need a Zumba studio. You can open up your own classes. So so part of what I do too outside of teaching and running the studio is guiding other people into like their own teaching, and then also like the business and creative side of like how to get that up and running in different places.
That is super, super cool. You talked about your great aunt Marianne, and I take from you that intergenerational, that your family is really important to you. And you have another video that you shared in your TEDx talk about your father. And well, there's a lot there. One is the power of, I think, your relationship, and also that moment. Well, can you explain it about your dad and that video that you share?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, my dad suffered a stroke at a very young age. He was 55. It caused him to be disabled physically, mentally. And there was a time where he was just in and out of nursing homes. He broke his hip twice. Like it was a very intense, condensed time of a lot of just hospital, nursing homes, that kind of thing. I'm the only child. I was there a lot, helping my mom out with my dad, all this stuff, and just visiting. And we were at this nursing home, and it was a rough patch where something emotionally was going on, where he was like, get me out. He was screaming. He wanted to get out of this nursing home. He was just like not having it. And I was the only one there with him. And I was like, all right, let's go for a walk. And, he was in the wheelchair, and I was like, just wheeling around this nursing home, trying to like find something to do. And we found an art room first and did a little bit of art. And then I found this, like the big dining room had a CD player. And I was like, let's play a song. Here, Dad, take my camera. And I was like, I'm going to make a dance video. That was like back, and I was pretty actively making dance videos wherever I could. They had a Swan Lake CD. We put it in. Swan Lake was like the first dance that I did when I was like 11 years old, like at my studio in New Jersey. It was like very sentimental. So part of what I show in the video is like the video that we made together with him taking my phone and filming the dance that I was doing with his, like, I love that video, like his commentary of like, you go girl. All right, let's put it on YouTube or whatever he was saying. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, like there was something like in the act of making art together, right? Creating this video. It was like, I felt like a dancer again. And he became a director, a videographer. He was like involved in the process in the ways that he could. And it shifted his mood, and like it made the whole evening so much easier,
No, it is an amazing moment in so many ways. That it's, first of all, visually raw. It's clearly in a nursing home. You can see that it's the dining room, and you're dancing around, the empty tables. But what I love, and what's lovely and heartbreaking, is your dad talking behind the camera, because it's like he finds his voice watching you and having that moment of creating this video with you. And it is absolutely extraordinary. And you talk about the power of art, what that meant for him to make something again, to have some control, right? To be able to create.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. Something so small can like be so profound.
And I think that that's probably what you find every day in small ways with your own studio.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's like, every day when you're when you don't know, that's the thing too with bigger dance classes, is you don't even know who is stepping into your class and what they're going through in their life, right? But you can feel the energy shift, right? And you can feel the joy that comes through and the expression and all of that. And like I like to, there's this one story that stands out to me. I had a student, this was many years ago, and she was part of this like longer program I did at the time. And she didn't really talk much in class. You know, she kind of kept to herself, but she was there every week and seemed to enjoy it. And when I did the feedback forms at the end, one of the things she wrote was that she was like, my husband's been like very ill. It's been really hard as a caretaker being so young. You know, she was probably in her early 30s. And she was like, this dance class has been so healing to me, like just having a space to come and move my body and do like, and like, I would have never known, you know, like I really would have never known. But yeah, I think that's the power of dance and of creating, of expressing, of, you know, of being able to do that wherever you are.
And it's easy to forget about our bodies. Maybe not you because you're a dancer, but if you're, you know, you've got your job that you go do every day and you got the brain going and doing all that stuff. And it's easy to forget that you need to be moving, and you can feel that way too.
Yeah. And it's easy to forget even as a trained dancer. I think sometimes even more so, because with dance training comes this very disciplined way of controlling what your body's doing, right? So it's like, yes, there's like more of a desire to move, but there's also more of an ability to like tame my body in a way, you know, like all those like ballet training years where it's like, it's almost like with that kind of dance, when I was so serious and so like technical, I was like a robot at the time. It's like, you know, I like being so in my head, it's easy to kind of carry that over and get stuck in my head too. So I have to constantly remind myself and create spaces and structures where I'm regularly getting in my body in different ways.
So what is the one step that we could take today? And I mean like lazy, tiny, small step that wouldn't feel like turning our life upside down, where we could start nudging ourselves into dance or to a creative adventure.
Yeah. So, okay. So I have this, I don't know what to call it, a technique or a step or a thing you could do, a thingy. I got a thingy. I call it the dance shuffle, or the dance shuffle solution. And all you do is you take whatever music source you have, don't overthink it, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, right? Open up your full library. You're going to hit shuffle, and you're going to commit to dancing to whatever song comes on first. Maybe if you have more time, the first 3 songs, that'll, you know, be like maybe like 10 minutes, right? But if it's like the smallest step you could take and it's one song, let the song come on and be surprised by what song it is. And maybe there's even like something in the lyrics that speaks to you, but like give yourself that song to commit to. Like, I'm going to move my body to the song. Don't even have to call it dancing, but see what it evokes in you. And, you know, and it can start to open up your body and your movement, but also that mystery of like, oh, what song is it going to be, right? Which I think the mystery and the magic is so much a part of the creative process too.
I love that. As you were saying that, I was thinking, we don't get enough surprise in our life. Not good surprise, not surprise. And what you're describing is that delicious, I have no idea what's going to happen next, but I'm in.
Yeah.
So if we're in the New York area, we will find you because you have your studio, and we can go, and we will make sure that all of the links are there and folks can sign up for classes, not just ballet either, right? You have other kinds of classes, yes?
Yeah, we have other classes. We have an amazing hip hop teacher doing some hip hop. We have contemporary-ish. I call it contemporary-ish because it's, you know, contemporary is very, I don't know, open to interpretation as is modern, but we do our own flair of like a learning choreography in that style. Yeah, more styles might be added, but those are the three right now that we focus on.
And if we're not in the New York area, you have online classes. Describe what we might see there.
Yeah, so we, as of now, we're streaming most, if not all, of our live classes. So you can sign up on Zoom and take class with us live. And then we also have the Dance Again digital studio, which you can join, and we have an archive of like class recordings, so you can, like, on your own time, you can take any class that's in there. And not only classes, there's things like injury prevention, like I mentioned. There's more like creativity focused courses that guide you on more of a getting in touch with your own creative self, not just, dance moves. And things that are in there too are like what I mentioned earlier, that 13-day Dance Alone Together series that you can just kind of like go through daily on your own time.
I love this. And you have a book, right?
I do.
And what's that about?
It's called Dance with This Book. And the subtitle is Start a Revolution with Your Body Alone in Your Room. And really it tracks some personal stories just for inspiration around that, like how I kind of got back into it starting alone in my room, but it turns it back to you, the reader, with every chapter ends with a prompt to get you moving in your own way. And again, you can bring that to life with that 13-day digital series as well. That's all kind of in theme with the book. So yeah, get us moving.
That is a lot. And okay, we're ready to move. We're ready to do this, I think. So we're going to have links for all of her stuff. Please take one of her classes and report back, because it sounds amazing and I want to hear about everything that goes on. And Jess, best wishes. Please expand. I'm ready for you out here.
Okay, definitely. I would love that.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is great.
Thanks for listening to the Dareful Project. Please follow, like, and leave a review. It really helps. We're on all your favorite platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Audible, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And to connect, you can email me at Deborah@dareful1.com. That's Deborah, DEBRA, at Dareful1, that's with the number 1.com. Thanks for listening.